Well, it's a number of things. André Øvredal, when he contacted me, I'd loved the autopsy of Jane Doe, and it's almost like a play, and it's these people locked in this room, and for him to be able to raise that tension in a very confined space, which is essentially what's happening with this movie on this, well, although a much bigger space and a bigger canvas for André this time. And I just thought, okay, I want to work with this guy, and I have this weird attraction to horror movies. I don't know what I've done. The Mummy. I did a wonderful movie called Dog Soldiers about werewolves. And when Dracula comes along, you've got to be a hard man to turn down Dracula. And it was a really, really lovely script. And you're right about me being fussy. It's why I didn't arrive for these interviews in a Ferrari. To my accountant's horror, I'm a little fussier than I should be. But I just love the idea of these people being trapped on the boat and having this monster, and as well as that, the history and heritage attached to this. And as I was saying before, less than a kilometre from where I live is the birthplace, the house that Bram Stoker was born in. So I consider him my neighbour. It's a bit of a stretch of the imagination, but, there you go. And one of the other big things is that I thought Universal were being very brave because, as you could see, they spent money on this. This is a lot of money. They wanted this to have scope and have the bigness of this at the beginning when we're in Bulgaria, and then to shrink it down and make this unbearable claustrophobia. And one other thing, when you're spending that kind of money, and I have to admire Universal for taking a chance on this, is there's no movie stars in this. It's not a vehicle for some, huge marquee name. Most of the actors in it are theatre-based, and it's a proper ensemble, which is difficult to write for. That all of the characters are beautifully drawn. And on top of that, you've got a monster like Dracula running around the ship killing people. For me, it was a no-brainer. It was a very easy yes. Well, Dracula is never going to go away. The book is wonderfully written, that he can be interpreted as a creative sees fit. If you look, our monster is very, very different from Christopher Lee and a lot of the other interpretations of the Dracula character. But those films are wonderful. They're still very watchable. It's the gothic aspect of it, this darkness, this kind of Victoriana. It's very seductive. And speaking of seduction, when you've got, there was a wonderful, I can't remember the name of the French actor who played him on a BBC thing years and years ago, and he's this very attractive, very suave character, which is a perfectly legitimate interpretation if you're going to make it interesting. But our Dracula is a beast. He's a monster. He's an insatiable appetite for human beings, and he operates without conscience, completely amoral, and is horrific, as you've seen. And those kind of odds against a ship full of people who are not military men, who are in some cases barely literate, and they're trapped on this ship and trying to fend off or protect themselves from this beast. It just said to me that this is great material and great stuff to do a really, really good movie. Oh, most definitely, because we went back to the book. There has been a trend of making Dracula this kind of enigmatic, slightly sexy character that people fall under the spell of and are seduced by his powers. In our case, our guy will rip you asunder and will take different forms. You don't know which Dracula you're going to meet. And that's directly coming from the book. We're going back to what Bram Stoker's imagination put on the page, and that's what we're after. Yeah, he's a guy. I mean, what attracted me to this, I wanted to, because logic would tell you that the captain should, when the merd hits the van, you should imagine that the leader, the captain of the boat, would step up, be the authoritative one, make the good decisions, and come up with plans. My captain is not like that. He's the head of a merchant vessel. They deliver goods from, parts of Eastern Europe back to. He's not a military man, and he's not a wartime leader. He's not a man that will step up to the plate. He's ready for retirement. He's got his grandson with him, and he wants peace and wants to retire to a small cottage in Ireland somewhere, and that's not allowed. So I like the humanness of that. The man is not a hero, and our wonderful Corey Hawkins is just fantastic in the movie. And leaders come from the least likely places. You don't know who the leaders are gonna be and the heroes are gonna be until disaster strikes. And Captain Elliot is not one of those. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, we thought I promised his mother that I'd look after him. In my mind, the mother had passed away, and he had the responsibility of this. It's all he has left of his daughter. Is this beautiful son who's full of life and vibrancy, and really wants to look after him and put him in school and all when his retirement comes around, and of course he's not allowed that. And I just like that everything is taken off him, and it's one of the things that makes it human. That it's not somebody turning around look what they did, let's get revenge. He begins to fall apart, as many of us mere humans probably do, and I just think that added to the tension that these people were very human. Not a bunch of heroes who let's make a plan and defeat the monsters. They just didn't know what to do, whether God was doing it to them, whether the presence of a woman was doing it to them. The superstitions come out, and the arguments start, and all that sort of thing. And the claustrophobia of being on that boat with this monster running rampage. I just thought it was a great take on this whole genre. Well, that's the idea. You have to get, if you're going to be outrageous with your monsters, the best way, and in fact the only way, to suspend an audience disbelief is to make the people as human as possible. Then you can go along with the drama and suspend your disbelief that much more. You've got to care about these people, and I think you do care about these people on this boat. They're just unfortunate. They picked up the wrong cargo at the wrong time. Oh, you need somebody who knows what they're doing. You need somebody who's able to stretch the tension. You need somebody who's able to guide an audience through the fear avenue, and reward that. And it's, like I say, hats off to Universal for. It would have been very easy to go with, some very, very well-known, movie star, marquee name, to hang their hat on, but they didn't. They got a wonderful bunch of, theatre people and actors, and made this an ensemble piece, and I think hats off to Universal for doing that. Absolutely, 100%, and also yes, and gave us the budget to give the scope on this thing. It's not everything happening in 3 rooms. You could see. I mean, they spent forever building that. That's a full-size ship. We did 1.5 ships, I think, in Malta in the tank, and then in Berlin. We did all the interiors, and it was just wonderful to see the money spent on the production. Well, there was all we did when we went to Rostock, and we went out to see these ships at work, and there was also the people who built this ship I mean, all their Christmases came at the same time. A Hollywood studio saying, how would you guys, these wonderful shipping nerds who love these old boats. I mean, it must have been wonderful when Universal called and said, how would you like to build a ship? And I'm sure they went through the roof. And their enthusiasm and their love of what they're doing. And it's like, I'm sure you'll probably be talking to David. David's character, this Polish character, like he says, he's just basically born, lived, and will probably die on a boat. That's his life. For a lot of these guys, that's the only way they can live their lives. They have routine. They do their work. They go to bed. They're together. That's their family. And I think in a lot of cases, a lot of people who work in the marine environment, or even perhaps the military and stuff like that, is that's the life they know they can live with. I think a lot of these people, they can't handle city life, or they can't handle, it's just not good for them. And these ships are their safe spaces, that they just know what they have to do, and life is simple for them. And then if you throw into that the arrival of Dracula, I think you've got drama. 100%. And I think it's very clever the way they did it. I mean, it's, he goes over. Oh, we've got hold on. Give us a sec. We've got a coffee machine cleaning itself in the background. We better plug that out. I think it's underneath. Yeah, I love the character, Corey's character, Clemens, who is, a qualified man from a highly respectable college in England, and when goes over to, take his post, and as soon as they see the colour of him, they go, not here, pal. And he's in trouble. He was going to start a new life and gets rejected. And then when he joins us, as you say, he earns the trust, the respect. And Elliot loves him because he can discuss books with him. He can discuss philosophy with him. He's just delighted for the company. And then as we see, as the drama unfolds and the fear and the danger unfolds, Clemens, as the hero, surfaces. And I love the idea of that the hero emerges, and it is Corey's character. It's wonderful. I love that. There's something slightly old-fashioned about it. But then again, Dracula's kind of old-fashioned. And I mean that in the best sense, not, 100%. It just lends itself to cinema so well as a medium. Horror and stretching the elastic and the tension. And you have to remember, when we were in Germany, in Babelsberg, I've never known what the right pronunciation is, 100 years before, Max Schreck was playing Dracula in Nosferatu in that very studio. So we kind of felt a real kind of responsibility here to try and, do as best we can, but also honour that history. And that's over 100 years. I mean, from the very early stages of cinema, horror has been a huge part of it. It's the roller coaster ride that cinema can and horror can bring to an audience, and it just lends itself. It's always going to be a part of cinema, and quite a few first-time directors make a name for themselves doing horror. Because it's a wonderful way to show your skills, and it's incredibly technical, and enormously enjoyable. We still love going to the cinema to have our wits frightened out of us, and that will never stop. Well, usually my wife. No, what scares me in real life, my impending death. That's basically what scares me. Nothing really. I can't think of, I don't know, the environment, politics, don't get me onto it, but politics and the environment, they're the two things that scare me.